Hey there, evolutionary. It is thrilling to me that you're here watching this video because today we're going to jump a little bit further down the rabbit hole and talk about etheric meditation. So meditating outside of your body, which is really exciting for me. And I'm going to use a technique around Fibonacci. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Fibonacci, but Fibonacci is very closely related to the golden mean, and it was developed by a mathematician, Leonardo of Pisa, later known as Fibonacci. So this unique sequence unfolds numbers. But before I jump into that, let me kind of share with you how I learned this, because what I'm going to talk to you about today, whether it's Fibonacci or whatever method you want to use to meditate outside of your body, is related to points of perspective. So when I was originally taught my guides, at this point there were some angels teaching me how to do this. And the angels essentially taught me how to change perspective very rapidly so that I could become attuned to the different angles and points, again, of perspective in which I was observing an object, which has allowed me to see things in a way that most mortals, most humans cannot. Because even most people today, spiritual teachers, channelers, are still translating transmissions which they are receiving in a three-dimensional aspect and not looking at it from a true holographic beyond third dimension, fourth, fifth, sixth dimensional aspect. And that's really what I'm here to teach you to do, is to understand how to capture and look at things from a different way. So in other words, when I'm here and I'm looking at this object here, I can only look at that object like I'm looking at the camera now from that perspective. But yet, in my mind's eye, I can actually step out of my body while I'm talking to you and look at it from this angle, and from behind me, and a number of other angles. So as I move from here, and this is what the angels taught me, is to use jump points, is I'm moving from this point to this point, and when I'm at this jump point, I'm able to observe this particular point in a completely different way than I was just here in traditional third dimension. So as I kind of look at this, again, I can change my perspective based on jump points. And again, I'm drawing this two-dimensional. This can be three-dimensional, four-dimensional, five-dimensional. It can encompass a number of different things, which are crazy exciting. So now let me jump back to Fibonacci to hopefully give you a little bit of a different perspective, but I would also invite you to try this, because really what we're doing is we're activating or attuning your imagination. So imagination is something that a lot of people associate with fantasy, but fantasy is actually the creation of imagination. So imagination is really a sense, it's a sensory. So I want you to think about imagination is like your seventh sense, because what you're doing is you're creating, but within this framework of creation, within your attuning to this fantasy that you're creating, you're actually able to create sensories around this. And this is part of a vivid or a wider imagination spectrum. So you're able to do certain things in a different way than, again, most humans can't, which is why you're here, right? To kind of expand, go beyond, see beyond, and learn how to take things in a completely different context than everyone else. So you're the chosen. So I'm thrilled you're here. So anyway, so back to Fibonacci. So basically, a very basic tenet in Fibonacci is 1 plus 1 equals 2. And then you go to the next specific number. So 2 plus 3 equals 5. And then you jump that, so 3 plus 5 equals 8, so on and so forth. So it's an ever-expanding continuum of numbers which it unfolds. Now, the cool thing about Fibonacci is, like I mentioned, it ties into the golden ratio and the golden spiral. So this golden spiral expands or unfolds into infinity. And the cool thing about that is it shows you, because as you understand how to change your points of perspective, that you are an infinite being, that you are beyond what is possibly or could ever be perceived in the box you're in now. So Fibonacci is cool, because this is why I want to use Fibonacci, is that it's a smaller box going into a bigger box and a bigger box. But when you look at it, let's say on your computer or whatever, it's a two-dimensional aspect. So I want you to think of Fibonacci and at least a three-dimensional. I mean, we'll go beyond this at some point, but right now a third dimension. So the first box, which is the 1, and then the 1 plus 1 equals a 2, which creates a bigger box, and then you've got the bigger box, which is 3, 5, 8. So again, you're creating a continuum of expanding the boxes, the frameworks in which you're able to observe and gain greater perspective. So what's happening as you go around the circle is you're attuning to greater and higher frequencies. You're attuning to a greater perspective of who you are, because you're getting to know yourself in a way you've never known yourself before, because now your sight is wide open, or you're opening your sight. And remember, the basic tenet to what I'm teaching is to see beyond. And this ties directly to what the guides gave me as the law of attunement, because we are attuning to these frequencies and attuning to these upper rooms, these great rooms or greater rooms as we step into, because we're allowing our consciousness to expand. Does everybody understand that this is like so very cool that you are now able to step into a bigger room? So what does that mean? So if I'm in a bigger room, that's a horrible box, I know. So if I'm in a box this big, my perspective is only relative to a box that size. But as I grow and increase, my perspective is now greatly increased. Now I'm also just showing you the center. Now I can move from here to here to here, or really any dynamic within this particular realm that I've created. I'm calling it a box or a cube. It's really kind of a realm because it's spatial in nature. Now, the cool thing about this is, as you go through this process, you're going to realize that there are no limiting boxes. I'm just using this to kind of show you how you can stair-step through the process. Now, and again, one of the things I also want to mention is that when I do this, I'm using a clockwise spiral. 99.9% of all Fibonacci spirals that I've seen on the internet and different places are counterclockwise. Now, why is that? Why are they moving counterclockwise? Well, it's harmonious, is that right? But it's a disingenuous harmony, meaning that it is a digression. It's a harmonic digression when you go counterclockwise. Now, because every image of Fibonacci is done this way, does that mean it was done purposeful to entrap you within this frame of reference so there is no expansion? Maybe, maybe not. But I'll leave that up to you, because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do want to help you understand that there are things that are out there in the universe when you begin to change your perspective, that you begin to understand the way things really work. Now, I can also tell you that no one else has ever talked about the counterclockwise Fibonacci, because it is something that my guide showed me, and I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Because what happens is that even subliminally, when you're trapped in this counterclockwise motion, you are actually entrapping yourself in a reality loop that is not going to expand. It's actually going to contract. So it sounds strange, but even as you look at an expansion and a counterclockwise method, it's actually a digression. And I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole in this video, but maybe I'll do that in a future video, because again, once you attune your mind's eye to seeing things in a different perspective, a point of perspective or pop, then you're able to see things completely differently. So again, this unfoldment happens and you begin to attune to different frequencies. Now, the cool thing is, there's a lot of cool things about this, but as you begin to expand your awareness, you can not only do this in meditation, but you step out and you can be in a crowd and you can look around from a different perspective, from up above. You can go, you're having coffee and walk down the street in the etheric body so that you're able to see things in a different way. Again, you're attuning yourself to see things, your mind's eye, in order to expand, unfold your awareness. Now, as you go through this, you can actually begin to step out and go into different realities, different universes, because now you've bridged the point. And part of that point that I want to emphasize right now is that as you unfold, remember I said you're infinite beings. There are infinite points along infinity. So these infinite points can also have infinite infinities tied to them. Now that may be kind of overwhelming for some of you, but it's really exciting because remember, this is a game. This is a game that we're playing for our soul that we're expanding into. So what I mean is we can have a point of perspective, a jump point here, and then jump off and have a completely different reality. And again, it is infinite, the numbers of points of consciousness that we can create in order to go totally beyond and see beyond, expanding our consciousness, expanding our awareness, expanding our sight, our knowings. And again, remember one of the things I talked about is agreements. So as you expand your consciousness, here's you, and then here's source. Again, we're expanding the agreements, the ability to connect with source so that that source opens up new things and allows us to see new things. And part of those new things are teachers. So if you're here in this box, which, to be honest, a lot of people are. Actually, some people don't even know they're in a box or a cube or this frame of reality, then the teachers that you're going to be able to connect with and learn from and study from are going to be in a lower vibe or a lower, different density type of reality. But again, as you expand your reality and go into the bigger cubes or frames of reference or realities, however you want to frame it, you begin to access masters of a magnitude much greater than you could ever imagine in this box. Now, the other cool thing about this, in addition to interacting with these incredible teachers, these masters, which I've had an opportunity to visit with, and they've shared things with me which I don't even know how I could even convey them in mortal terms, but at some point maybe I'll try, or at least I'll have an inner circle and we can have these wild and crazy discussions about what lies beyond, because there is a lot of things that lie beyond. So here we go. So as the second cool thing about this is free will. And I hate to share this with you, but there's really no such thing as free will, especially in this reality, because we are a product of everything that's ever happened to us in our lifetime, from traumatic events to how our parents treated us greatly or not so greatly, to understanding and just interacting with people, to how life unfolds, to watching a sporting event or some type of whatever. All those things have an impact on our free will. So free will, while there is a choice, that choice is heavily weighted because of the experiences we had in this lifetime. So I would actually like to argue that there is no such thing as free will. I mean, there's a perception of free will, but there is no free will. But here's the key that I'm going to help you unlock, is that when you go through this process and you open up your ability to see beyond, you begin to understand the different perspective, you interact with different teachers, your free will expands. So your ability of source or godlike force that lies within you is able to understand what is happening so you can make a more objective choice. And that objective choice, and here's the key, is not necessarily based on a human knowing, on a mortal knowing, and I talk about being mortal quite a bit, because I want you to expand beyond what is normal, what is mortal, what is human, and see things that will be of benefit and choices you need to make that will be of direct benefit to your soul. And I say this because everybody talks about love, and love is the thing that is going to help me escape from all this craziness, and escape this earth school. Well, that's part of it. But I also want to emphasize it is this, because once you expand your free will, you're also expanding your ability to think. And understanding a critical thinking and the ability to produce a thought experiment allows you to control what and how you think, because as we go up in the elevated realms, our ability to manifest becomes very practical. I mean, you've probably seen the movie The Secret where they talk about it and show an elephant popping into a room. Well, that happens when we go into the higher realms. And what happens when we do that is that we must learn how to control our thinking. And if you have judgment, if you have jealousy, if you can't control your emotions, which spawn these critical thoughts of harm or whatever it might be in the negative realm, then guess what? You're not going to evolve. You're not going to ascend. So this spiral and helping you go into the bigger room is a map for ascension. And as far as I know, people talk about feeling good, you got to do this and do that. Well, that's a part of it. That's a very small part of it. You've got to control your mind. You've got to control your ability to navigate through the different realms of reality. And this very simple map is what I'm sharing with you today to help you do that. So with that, please leave me any questions or comments below. I know some of this stuff is pretty far out there. And I know some of the spiritual people are like, Joe, that's... Anyway, I'm not here to really... make friends. I'm here to teach, because the people that are, and I want to make friends, I mean, that's not true, but I'm here to really help people understand. This is really what I've been given these insights for, is to share with you, to give you a path to understand. And today, it's really about perspective, in points of perspective. And again, you can use Fibonacci, or you can use my original teaching, which is the angels, and they call it jumping. So it's interesting, because it's like jump. It's really cool the way they showed me how to do it originally. And if you have questions about that specifically, maybe I can go into a more in-depth video. So leave me your comments. And until the next time, much love, and I look forward to catching up with you really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.